What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. Okay, this thing flew over my mind for months. No lie. It was like JTG back in 2013. No one even bets an eye on him. That's how it was with this. I didn't notice it at all. Since I was watching some random matches from this era of SmackDown, post Lesnar, I thought to myself, it's either this, something on Rene Dupree, or the London and Kidman story. And I also did consider the Angle Big Show thing, but it's kind of complicated due to the previous Eddie story. So if I make something on that, it might be on the entire GM run Angle head. With that said, I decided on Spike Dudley the Boss. He showed who's really the boss. It wasn't Devon, nor Bubba, or Sasha Banks. Despite being the one who took beatings like no other man, all of a sudden he's the one who's calling the shots. For years, he's seen as the little Dudley that Devon and Bubba defend or bully. And it was a fresh change for Spike, who wasn't really doing much. Right now, let's get into it. On the July 1st, 2004 episode of SmackDown, the WWE Champion JBL is looking to show that he's a fighting champion. He was out to defend his title against a lucky man. Bubba was sucking up, he was brown-nosing, and JBL took notice, so he gave the title shot to a Dudley. Spike Dudley, that is, and the duo were let down. Despite this, they were somewhat supportive of Spike, although it didn't really show that much, as you can see here. As expected, he got his ass beat throughout the match. The fans were expecting Eddie to come on, that's a whole other story. But if Spike was going down, he was going down fighting. At a moment's notice, he caught JBL off guard with a Dudley dog, and the fans were going crazy. Unfortunately, though, JBL wrapped things up quickly from there on. The next week, Rey Mysterio was chatting with Spike when Big Brothers interrupted. The Dudleys were in a very foul mood over their title loss earlier that night. They were also angry at the fact that he refused help last week, and look where he's at now. He ain't the champion. Spike himself laughed it off, thinking that it's stupid to take advice from two former champions because they lost the titles earlier that night. A couple of minutes later, he lost a six-man tag. Seeing as little Spike needed help, which he never asked for, the Dudleys decided to interfere in his match the following week. Bubba pulled a 2015 Undertaker and kicked Noble, and this gave way to Spike, who got the victory. Once he realized what's up, he complained, and all Spike wanted was to be left alone. They didn't do anything in Spike's #1 contenders match, and little Dudley showed he had the goods. So now he's got Rey Mysterio for the Cruiserweight Championship. Once they got news of this, they were proud, but Spike was pretty irritated. Bubba promised neither he nor Devon will interfere in his match with Rey next week if Spike doesn't interfere in Devon's match. He promised, but what he didn't know was that Devon's opponent was Rey Mysterio. During the match, Billy Kidman and Paul London interfered, and so Rey Mysterio won. Now, about that title match, it was pretty competitive. Despite the promise, the Dudleys interfered, and Spike took advantage to win the title. After the match, he noticed those two applauding his performance, and it dawned on him. He didn't win the title fair and square. He won it due to his younger brothers. Once again, the Dudleys screwed up their title match, and this left him with no business to attend to, meaning they were 100% focused on Spike. Add to the fact that Rey had interfered during the match, and so they were out for revenge. A match was made for the August 5th episode of SmackDown, pitting Rey and Spike against the Dudley Boyz. During the match, Spike felt something in his leg, and this left Rey alone with the two brothers. He struggled to get any sort of advantage, and the Dudleys had 3D to win. Spike tried making the save, but he couldn't make it in time, and after the match, Spike helped Rey get back to his feet when he pulled a 2015 Undertaker, turning heel for the first time in WWE. All of a sudden, there was a smile on his face, and he then grabbed Bubba and Devon and gave them orders. He told them to get that table. He sent Rey through that table and embraced his new side. He began racking up W's with his brothers' help. Scotty was somewhat disgusted with Spike's actions, and he told him off. Spike was like, I never accomplished anything with friends, only my brothers helped me win matches. He punked Scotty too hard, he couldn't really do anything about it, because the two brothers, they were like bullies. The trio teamed up to face Rey, London, and Kidman at SummerSlam. That match was pretty fun. Once again, though, the Dudleys obliterated the opposition, and Spike picks up the victory. That's how it always was. He was in control, they'd do all the dirty work, and he'd come in and pick up the scraps, I guess. Over the next couple of weeks, Spike continued coming out with his brothers. He won matches, orders him to do his dirty work, lift me, blah, blah, blah. And he was basically the dictator of SmackDown, I guess. He got a little in over his head one night and tried making an enemy out of John Cena. He called himself the real champ and kicked him in a schlong, and this led to a Dudley Boy attack. So Teddy Long booked a one-on-one match with one of the Dudleys. It wasn't Spike, though, who faced Cena, it was Devon. He got his ass beat due to Spike's actions, basically, and he never got his comeuppance, which is shocking to think about right now. As for Rey, he finally got payback for Spike's actions, so there's that. And when the Dudleys lost again the week afterwards, he scolded them and kicked Devon in the balls. Bubba took the heat, and you gotta wonder, like, what in the hell does he have on them? Anyways, in the Cruiserweight division, Nunzio got himself a title shot by being the boss. About that title match, poor Nunzio got his balls smashed by Bubba, and so Spike was still champion. After months of helping their older brother, the Dudleys disappeared abruptly. So here's how it went. The boss asked Kurt Angle for a spot in the Survivor Series team. Not for himself, but for either Devon or Bubba. Angle, the team captain, wanted the trio to do something to the Big Show in order to get that spot. Devon and Bubba weren't really all in, and they were very lenient in going through with it. This carried over to the following week. Bubba was asking if Spike has a plan, to which he replied something along the lines of course, I'm the boss. He wanted to call out the Big Show and eliminate him by getting the tables. Spike did just that later that night. He called out the Big Show, and for context, the Big Show upon his return was somewhat unstoppable. Anyways, when Big Show appeared, he was quite confused. In his mind, it was the dumbest idea ever. Spike initiated the assault by spitting on Show, and the Dudleys hit the 3D. A couple of seconds later, that plan backfired in a very, very bad way. Spike was in disbelief, and since he actually had a brain, he walked away. So no, none of the Dudleys are participating in Survivor Series. And that was it for the Dudley Boyz. They went on a much-needed break, and Spike went on to defend his title in a very fun Fatal 4-Way match at Survivor Series featuring Rey Mysterio, Billy Kidman, and Chavo Guerrero. Despite there being no bros at ringside, Spike was at the right place at the right time, and he retained the title. Following Survivor Series, Spike wasn't showcased as much as he was previously, and with the Dudleys on hiatus, he mostly wrestled on Velocity despite being champion. He did, however, defend the Cruiserweight Championship against Funaki at Armageddon. Now, about that, it was decent, but the crowd was pretty silent. Spike got too arrogant, and it cost him greatly as SmackDown's #1 announcer finally won the Cruiserweight Championship. If you look at it from that time's perspective, it was definitely a shocker. It was one of the bigger upsets of 2004 for sure. You can't tell me otherwise. Funaki definitely deserved to win the title, but Spike, he was doing some good work as the boss. Like, he wasn't featured that much on SmackDown, but whenever he was featured, it was decent. It wasn't bad. Afterwards, Spike, he wasn't really doing much. He lost nearly every match on SmackDown in Velocity up until May of 2005. Little Spike Dudley will make one final appearance during the legendary ECW One Night Stand main event between the Dudleys and Tommy Dreamer and the Sandman. Funny enough, this was the Dudleys' final appearance in WWE also. And on July 5th, 2005, Spike Dudley was released from his WWE contract. So there it is. That's the Boss Is Run. I think it was pretty good for his career, as this was a side we never seen from Spike Dudley, so it was fresh. That's what I'm trying to say. The fact that he was in control of these two brothers, it's funny to see, because after all those years, they were always bullying him, or either he was like their little brother or something. They'd always come to his defense. It's just funny to see him yelling, barking orders, telling them what to do, and they're all scared. Like, one segment there, freaking Bubba was about to piss his pants because his little brother was mad. He was frustrated, he was pissed, he was fuming, and he was so damn worried. Like, that was funny. Okay, like I said, this character change, it brought Spike the Cruiserweight title, brought him a lot of TV time, so there's that. What did you guys think of Spike Dudley's The Boss Run? Please comment down below. And that's it for this video. Make sure you hit a Dudley dog on the like button, and perhaps the 3D on the subscribe button. Peace, I'm out.